Here we are. Ed, thank
Hello.
you so much.
No worries.
Been looking forward to this. So why don't you just kind of give a really high level overview on the company, and then I guess it'd be good to understand your role within the company as well.
Cool. So, Smile ID, previously branded as Smile Identity, we are the largest identity verification platform in Africa. We're a global company, spread worldwide. I'm in the UK, but we our market focus is Africa. So, we've got offices in London, but also in Lagos, Nairobi, and Cape Town. Our largest markets are like Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, all of the big African economies. Yeah, and so yeah, we do identity verification for our clients, who are generally like banks and fintechs and retailers, and anyone who needs to verify who the end user is, who they say they are. Um, and we do that through a variety of different methods. We've got quite an extensive API and SDKs that our customers can use to interact with us and gain access to those services.
Okay. And then your role within the business?
So I'm director of engineering. Alongside a few other directors of engineering who look after various different areas, my main focus is sort of the platform side. So we call it platform. It's not sort of like a DevOps platform. It's more sort of like the API, all the services behind that. We have a customer-facing application that we look after as well. And our team also looks after all of like the server-side SDKs and the web SDK. So not mobile stuff. We have a specific mobile team for that. We have a specific CVML team, so it's computer vision machine learning, who do all the fancy stuff with models and figuring out whether this person is real, whether they are there. It's not a cardboard cutout, it's not a deep fake. Um, and we have a data team as well who look after all of our like analytics and everything else there. So the platform team is kind of like we do everything else. So it's all
Yeah.
the bits in between, all the joining up, all the talking to different providers, and yeah, dealing with the scale of requests that we get.
Interesting. Okay. So when you say the largest identity verification platform in Africa, just to put that into a bit of perspective, so 350 million plus completed ID checks across Africa, and you
Yeah.
serve around 40% of the entire African population.
Well, I think last time I checked, we're 361 million now. So yeah, that was from a couple weeks ago, 350. And I mean, we service the whole continent and beyond. Even we do deal with some stuff outside of Africa, but I think when you look at statistics, I don't know, the 360 million, compare that against whatever the population of Africa is, it's yeah, like 30, 35, 40%, something around there.
Yeah,
Um, that's yeah, on the assumption that that's one person doing it once. Obviously, we do get people coming back and doing stuff multiple times, but yeah.
sure. Still impressive numbers, right? Impressive
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah.
Definitely not something to be sniffed at. So tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about how the company, how you got to that point. What's the origin story? How have you gone from the beginnings to 361 million completed ID checks?
Um, so it started, our CEO and founder, Mark Straub, was a VC working across Africa and India as well. And uh, he had a very particular issue where he was in Lagos in Nigeria, trying to book a flight, or had booked a flight to go back home to see his family, who was in India at that time. And had a notification he was about to check out of his hotel to go to the airport. Notification, oh, the your flight ticket's been cancelled. And it's like, why? I booked it. It's like all ready to go. Why has it been cancelled? Uh, so rang up American Express, card provider that he booked it with. Excuse me. And had to go through multiple layers of customer support and thing, and eventually was told, oh, yeah, we thought it was fraudulent because you booked it from a Nigerian IP address. And so like it was mind blown of like, why is it fraudulent just because I'm in Nigeria? It's like, surely there are, there are, 200 million Nigerians who are in Nigeria and would say, face the same issues and all this sort of stuff. And so it was like, why do we reject, transactions or mark stuff as fraud just because of the location of an IP address, or just because it's like in Nigeria or in whatever African country you might be in, where, from a westernized economic view, you think, oh, that sounds dodgy. And so, there is this huge gap in the market where people in Africa can't get access to services they need, or services that would help them help, the whole economic model in Africa, because they're being held back by this, identity problem of not being able to prove who they say they are in a, reliable way, in a way that, would stop genuine fraud, but doesn't stop genuine people from doing genuine transactions. Yeah,
that's interesting, right? So a lot of people that I speak to on this podcast, the idea for the startup or the idea for the business comes out of a problem, right? It's not just someone sitting there thinking, what next business can I create? It's somebody who's faced a problem and then gone and built a solution to that problem.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I didn't appreciate that was the origin story of the company. So when did the company start?
That was 2017, 2018, that sort of time period. And yeah, sort of launched slowly from there. And yeah, I've been picking up steam ever since, and so like we grow alongside our partners. So as the African tech scene has evolved and grown massively, there are African unicorns now, some of whom are our clients. And it's a virtuous circle. It's this feedback loop of, if we can help people get access to these services, then that builds trust into the whole economy. It builds trust into what people are doing. And then that means, if you've got trust, you can get more investment. If you get more investment, then you can build more businesses. If you build more businesses, then you need to identify people more. And it's all this sort of stuff. And it's this big feedback loop, and the wheel keeps turning and it keeps growing larger for everyone. So it's a really enriching thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you've been there for how long?
Blimey, 3 years now, 3.5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did the company look when you joined versus how it looks today?
We were slightly smaller in terms of headcount. We were definitely smaller in terms of transactions processed and the scale of things that we're doing stuff at. On the technology front, we were a little more disorganized. Let's put it like that. I was brought in to help sort out a lot of that, to consolidate the sort of previous tech stack, to improve things, to take things to the next level. So yeah, and I think back to the scale of what we were doing then. I'm not quite sure. I don't think we'd quite broken 100 million records then. Maybe we're about 50. And the scale of where we're at now, where we're doing sort of 20 million a month. And our uptime is very good, considering everything. It's a challenging market to be in.
Question: did you say 20 million, and does that mean in terms of ID checks per month?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So I know when I said 350 million, and you said that was a few weeks ago, and now at 361, I didn't like that's a big number, right? But when you say 20 million ID checks a month, that kind of is like, wow.
Yeah. It's the scale of doing 20 million a month compared to, I don't know, 20 million over 6 months.
Yeah.
Pretty
it's impressive.
And it's it's very variable. As we're recording this, we're coming up to Black Friday week. Obviously, we have some of our clients are large retailers across the continent who have to verify people as part of transaction stuff. So we have to be aware and alert for that. We know that we can't afford any downtime, that we have to scale our systems up to cope. So yeah.
Is Kubernetes part of your tech stack then?
It is. We have quite a complicated tech stack. It's a lot easier than it was when I started. We've sort of consolidated down, but yeah, we run a lot of stuff in containers
Mm.
in the cloud. So yeah,
Yeah. Are you just on one cloud provider?
mostly on AWS. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a nice segue into my second part, which is all about
Okay.
tech stack, right? So we just started talking about it, and AI is an interesting one because everybody at the moment, whether you go to an event, whether you're at a meetup, whether you're listening to a podcast,
Mm.
everybody's talking about AI. So it would be remiss of me not to ask you about it. But considering what Smile does, you've kind of been using AI for, well, since the inception, right?
Yes.
So what what can you tell us about the tech stack? What cool things are you doing apart from identity verification?
Uh, yeah. So it is weird. We've had machine learning services, machine learning models built into the product, if you like, into the API since we started.
Yeah.
And obviously those have evolved drastically over the years. You know, we've gone through sort of three major architectural changes just on the classic ML stack since I've been there actually. And yeah, things have evolved a lot there to serve, like say, volume, reduce latency, doing things more efficiently, um, uh, and as things have evolved, like the sophistication of the fraud attempts or the fraud attacks that we're seeing has obviously increased massively. It used to be you'd see stuff where someone would, instead of taking a picture of their face, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to hold up another phone to the camera with a picture of someone else's face." So it's
Yeah.
detecting, is this a picture of a picture? Is it, a screen attack? Is it someone wearing a mask trying to look like someone? Is it someone holding up like a printed photo cutout of someone else trying to like access their account?
Yeah.
So now, yeah, where we're seeing, full deep fake, generative AI generating images of people who are either don't exist or trying to look like someone who does exist, and getting them to try and break through our defenses. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the classic machine learning stuff. Obviously, yeah, generative AI in terms of the fraud attempts that we're seeing and the attacks is increased, and we're also utilizing some of that technology internally to try and detect some of that, along with some other things. We've got what have we got? Sort of three or four sort of LMs in the mix at the moment, doing various different bits because we found that different models are suitable for different sort of things. Whether it's doing OCR on handwritten documents or extremely poor quality images or whatever, to trying to detect these deep fakes and all that sort of other stuff. Um, there's kind of it's finding the right balance of things. Between our classic machine learning models, which we're constantly training and improving and deploying new stuff all the time there as well, to the LLMs where we're constantly training, because we do train and fine tune our own LLMs alongside the more sort of traditional available ones that you see in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And as new ones of those come out, then it's like, oh, we run our training set against that, evaluate, oh, this would be good for this would be good for this. And then, oh, do we need to now include this in the mix? Do we switch these models out for that? All of that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
So you mentioned it a minute ago. So the whole like security and the fraud detection side of things, that's interesting in general because with the advent of AI, increased risk of cyber attacks, of deep fakes, of all these types
Mm,
of things increases exponentially, right? It just goes through the roof. So for a company like you, a company like Smile that kind of relies on that kind of, the sector that you're in,
mm,
this is even more important to you. And obviously, like even when you consider your customers as well, so you're dealing with banks and fintechs, as well as your own type of thing, right? So there's a whole host of
yeah.
issues that could come up, and there's a lot of fraud that you need to consider. I know that AI is advancing so quickly, but then so are the sophistication of the attacks and that whole security threat side of things. So in terms of how you mitigate that, do you have people in the company specifically looking at just this, or is this part of people's responsibility in the team to be able to be aware?
It's a mixture of both in that, we do have, we have dedicated fraud prevention team who are literally sit there, look at jobs coming in. Generally with our system, it's either like, this is definitely fine, this is definitely not fine, or there's a gray area in the middle where we're not sure. So we can pipe some of those requests to that fraud prevention team to, they look at sort of 5 or 6,000 jobs a day, perhaps, just to manually check them. We have a dedicated team who will do reviews after the fact of a subset of these jobs as well, to say, okay, we flagged this as potential. Let's go back and look at it in depth. Let's go and look at the history of this transaction, or this person who's trying to access this account, tie it up with other transactions or other requests we've seen that are also associated with this person, or with other metadata about the request that's come in, to then look at sort of longer term patterns around that. We obviously have the machine learning team who are constantly evaluating all of these jobs coming through and seeing, are we seeing a new type of attack? Is there something else that we should be looking for? Do we need to go and train a new model for this? And we have a lead fraud architect who sort of ties all this together, and it's looking at the statistics around all of this, and where are we seeing these attacks coming from? Is this coming from Android? Is it coming from iOS? Is it coming from this location? Is it, is there some correlating information that we can use to try and better defend against this stuff?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Well, you hit the nail on the head, like new attacks, something new that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
How do we stay ahead of that? How do you even know what it looks like? How do we spot it?
Yeah, and it's a very cat and mouse game, where we always have to be one step ahead. But it's a challenge. It's kind of like the best, most fun engineering challenge, in that it never gets boring, because you always see this new stuff coming in. And it's all about I guess trying to make fraud uneconomical for the fraudsters, to make it harder or more expensive for them to try and break in and try and attack and get through our defenses, if you like, than the reward that they might get out of it. Yeah,
it's interesting. It's really interesting. I think there's going to be a ton of information coming out over the next 12 to 18 months from the government on the kind of initiatives and things that they're putting in place to be able to fund AI initiatives and fraud prevention initiatives as well. So I'm interested to keep an eye on that. I want to just talk about your customers a little bit. You mentioned that you've got a couple of African unicorn companies, but in terms of, and obviously you don't have to name drop, but in terms of your customers, how do you facilitate those businesses and allow them to grow? Because what you're doing is you're helping the African economy grow by being able to give businesses the ability to identity verification, right? So that's not just for the individual, but it's also for the economy and the whole continent as well, when you think about the larger initiative. So how do you facilitate businesses? How are you helping the small and the medium-sized businesses establish themselves? Like, what difference are you making?
It's interesting. It's like, as we've grown as a company, our market focus or our general market focus has shifted and changed. We always used to be about, the real small micro businesses who like one-man bands, or like just a few employees or whatever, who are trying to grow and keep going. And we had a competitive difference to a lot of our competitors, where we had no sort of like minimum like monthly charge. It was just pay as you go, in that you don't use us this month, you don't get charged, or next month you use us for 3,000 jobs, we just charge you for those 3,000 jobs. So it allows our customers to, I guess, pick and choose or scale or use us at the scale that they want to. As they grow, they can just grow along with us. We would just, we're all about the scale. So everything we do is designed to auto scale as much as possible. So if tomorrow we suddenly got a 2x increase in our traffic, it would just be fine. We wouldn't need to necessarily do anything. If someone said, "Oh, I'm going to send you 10x your entire traffic," then we might be like, "Okay, let's make sure we can cope with that." But
let's look at the architecture.
But again, everything is in place to allow us to do that. So it's quite interesting, and now at the scale of company we are, like, doing 20 million requests a month or whatever. Obviously our focus, sort of our major customers are larger banks, larger fintechs, people who are putting serious volume through us. But we still have this very long tail of, 2 or 3,000 other customers who are using us, once or twice a month, or 100 times a month, or whatever it is, just because that's the scale that they're at. And they're equally as important to us because we know that those guys are going to become the unicorns of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they can just carry on using us as they have been. So it's all about trying to help support everyone while still helping them grow. And it's like the economies of scale that we can get because we're now serving the larger banks and fintechs means that everyone can benefit from that.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Okay. So if we go on to leadership, as you said, your position in the company, you're director of engineering. So you have direct reports?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of your career, so not just Smile now, but over the course of your career as an engineer into leadership, be interesting to know some of the things that you've perhaps learned over the years about leadership. And this might be a good question to kind of think about your time here, your time somewhere else.
Yeah, it's weird. I tend not to think about stuff like this too much and be sort of like have like pat answers down for everything. Because I think whatever role you're in, whether it's, you're just a individual contributor or, you're a manager or, doing both, it's like there are so many different hats you can wear, and it's so dependent on the environment and the nuance of the role you're in. I've been in like leadership management roles before where you've had to be that sort of classic shit umbrella to, stop management bullshit or whatever it is landing on the rest of the team, for trying to protect them, trying to like nurture them and grow whilst, shielding them from all the other stuff. I've been in roles where it's very much more just like a very one-on-one mentorship thing with, people you're managing or a wider group of people. I worked at one very big unicorn startup and ended up mentoring like 120 people across the organization because it was just like, yeah, that was what it evolved into. And it was sort of, I wouldn't say like it was needed at the time, but it was like, that was like the way it was going. And I think now at Smile, I don't know. I'd have to ask everyone else what kind of
Yeah.
leader they think I am.
Careful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know. I see myself as kind of almost like a figurehead, that other people can then, I don't know, look up to, try and emulate. I still do a huge amount of like IC work. I'm in the code base. Yeah, I'm in the code base every day, I'd say like, yeah, 80-90% of my time is still doing IC work. I think the team is incredibly easy to manage, which helps. If it was a more challenging team, then the ratio would probably be different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it means that I can help steer things in a more sort of from an architectural perspective as well. Yeah, it means I can help do all sorts of stuff. I can take on new projects. I can be more sort of like an internal support frontline for other people in the company who will like want to ask or get help from the engineering group. And I'm always on Slack, so it's like I'm just answering, questions or whatever, or helping direct stuff. It's like, oh, who do I talk to about this? And I'm like, oh, you should go and talk to this guy or whatever. So yeah.
So protecting the engineers to be able, or protecting the engineers' time, right? To be able to give them the space to do their job and to work on the things they need to work on without having to deal with all of the kind of complexity that comes with being an engineer, being pulled into meetings that maybe they don't need to be in. So you
Yeah.
describe one thing as a shit umbrella, right? So not
Yeah.
kind of that now at Smile, but
No.
you're kind of the guy that can code and can be the IC and that the engineers can learn from because of the extent of your experience, but also at the same time you can communicate business requirements as well, and talk to the other leaders in the business and have that strategic overview rather than being the sole IC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
nice. I think that's a good balance. I think obviously as you said, right, if the company was if it looked different and you had 500 more employees, I'm sure your role would look a lot different to what it does now. So it's always interesting. How would you describe, or what words would you use to describe the culture at Smile?
Uh, I'd say it's very open. We are very open internally about, things like company performance, not just like API requests or anything like that, but like uh, what new clients are we trying to sign? What's our financial performance like in the last month? We talk a lot on all hands about particular clients and what problems they're facing and how we as an entire company sort of can help with that. Um, I think it's very friendly. We do a lot of, I guess, social stuff together, even though we're fully remote. We've got people in, the States and Canada, UK, Sweden, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, all over.
Mm.
So we're very social on Slack. We do. There was a good thing the other day. It's called Guess My Plate, where people would take pictures of their food, and they were just uploaded by one person, so you didn't know who it was, and so everyone had to jump on and be like, "Oh, I think this is so and so's plate," or whatever. And just weird little fun things like that, which I really like and appreciate.
They can tell who the Brits are when you upload a fish and chips.
It's interesting. There wasn't any fish and chips. There was, and it's quite tricky because, like with immigration and stuff, it's like we've got one guy who works in Sweden, but he's British. So it's like, is this British food in Sweden or is this Swedish food? Or, a Nigerian guy who's in the States at the moment. And it's like, yeah, how do you tell?
That's funny. That's brilliant.
So fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think, it's like we also really value like building things, like whether it's a tool or a new part of the product, or it's like building a process or building something that is going to help us as a company or our customers. And obviously we're all about protecting people, so it's we talk a lot internally about security and safety and looking at new fraud trends and stuff. We've got a couple of different Slack channels where people share like articles and links about whether it's about identity verification stuff or stuff in the African economy or just things going on that sort of like, oh, this is like interesting. I think other people should know about it. So yeah, it's very good like that.
Yeah, nice. And sticking on the theme of leadership then, so turning the spotlight on other people, not yourself for a moment, can you tell me about some of the best leaders that maybe you've worked under and some of the things that you've noticed from them or observed from them that were good traits to carry forward in your role?
Again, that's kind of tricky. It's not something I really like think about too much.
You just do the job.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I will, I should call out my current CTO, because not only is he my current CTO, but I've also, this is the second company that I've worked with him at. So there's obviously something going on there where we work well together. Because I was he was a co-founder and CTO of another company where I was principal engineer, and then he went off to do other stuff, and he ended up at Smile. And when he landed and he was looking around at all the stuff that needed sorting, and he was like, I could do with someone like Ed. So then he was like, oh, do you fancy a chat? And here we are. And I guess what have I learned from him is that I think brevity is incredibly powerful. You don't have to, go on and on about something and spend, 3 pages explaining something if you can do it in 3 lines. I think that helps in a number of different ways. Or it's like, if you've got a, daily stand-up call with like 15 people on it, do you need to have a 5 minute discussion around some incredibly niche thing with everyone on the call? It's like, no, just like share the the updates that everyone should know about, and then pull a parking lot with 3 or 4 people that want to talk about this thing for 5 minutes, and like move on, and it just helps keep the flow going. Yeah.
I like the brevity thing. I think that too, and I think to myself that when someone's explaining something to me in minute detail, I just lose the point of what they're trying to tell me. I'm very much like, give me the high level stuff, the important stuff that I need to know, and just let me figure the rest out. And I
Yeah.
often think about that when I'm communicating, not just at work, but like if I'm chatting to my wife and I'm giving her so much information about my plans on the weekend, but just tell her where I'm going to be and at what time, rather than who's going to be there, why I'm going, what's going to be like when I get there, then she'll remember.
Yeah.
So brevity is powerful. I often think that myself. So that's a good lesson I think that he's taught you.
Yeah. Yeah. As we were having a discussion around something the other day, he was like, don't oversell it. Like, if you go on about something, all you're doing is giving the other person an opportunity to say no or to change their mind about it. If you made your argument, you don't need to over egg the pastry or whatever.
And he's a CTO, is he?
Yeah.
Sounds like it could be a CEO.
He and the CEO and the CEO all work very closely together, and I guess kind of interchangeably to a certain extent. It's a very good dynamic we have at the C-suite level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice. Okay, and then one of my final questions I wanted to ask you is that whenever the time comes and you're no longer working at Smile, what do you want to be known for when you look back on your time there?
I don't know. Yeah, bringing some fun and entertainment to the team would be good. I hope I've done that. I guess, well, yeah, making a difference, improving things. Like the classic one of just like, having an impact, Um, I've done a few things where it was like I've, had this idea around something we could do, which would like, drastically change the game or, improve things a lot for like our customers or our infrastructure or, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And then sort of like just, you know, presented it internally, I guess, and then like, yeah, this is really good. Let's go and do it. And then went and did it. And it worked. And it was like, yeah, that's kind of like I guess it's a very classic engineering thing, but that is
Yeah.
it, isn't it? And just doing that, repeatedly or whatever,
Hmm.
to help things out. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay. And then, November, you start to think about the year ahead, whether it's commercial, whether it's non-commercial, whatever. So looking into 2026, what does Smile look like next year? What kind of cool things are you allowed to say that you can share with us that you're working on?
I guess, by the time this comes out, or hopefully be well on the way. We're currently revamping and doing an entirely new version of our API, which is quite exciting. Because our sort of our API contract, the way that people generally interact with us hasn't actually changed all that much. We've changed so much behind the scenes. Um, but now changing that very, the thin API layer to, change how we get the requests in and what we respond with and all that sort of stuff. So we're changing that, which is going to open up a lot of new stuff for us, for our customers, a lot of new information, a lot more, potential fraud detected, all of this sort of stuff.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think that will be very key. And then sort of alongside that, with producing new versions of mobile SDKs, which are a lot more composable, to allow a lot more flexibility in how people are using us, certainly on mobile.
Mm.
Because that's a very technical side of things. There is still a lot more stuff we're doing behind the scenes, which I probably really can't talk about, but it's all about improved security, improved scalability, improved
Yeah.
performance and reliability, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and then I guess from the business point of view, it will be, continuing to scale and grow, and going from 20 million a month to 30 to 40 to whatever it is, as we add more customers, more larger customers, as our customers grow alongside us. We're pushing into new markets. Generally we've focused on the sort of Anglophone side of Africa so far, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, all that sort of stuff. Now we're pushing into Francophone and sort of Arabic and Amharic markets as well, which, will bring its own slightly interesting technical challenges in terms of how do you OCR a document which has got mixed Arabic and Latin characters, and decipher all of that, and it'll be interesting.
This is the reason why you like to stay involved in the code base, right? Cool projects.
Oh,
like
yeah. I would get very bored just doing the management stuff. Like, I love people engineering, as I call it, but yeah, the technical challenges that we're facing and the market challenges we're facing with the size of team that we have it's I want to get involved and do all this juicy stuff. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, it sounds good. I'll definitely be following along. I know that we obviously had that chance to meet April or March this year.
Yes. Yeah.
At the conference. So that was pretty cool. That was the first I'd heard about Smile. So yeah, I think the business is awesome. I think it's really interesting. It's exciting for me as an outsider to be able to watch the journey. I think what you guys are doing is, really kind of novel as well. I think, supporting the African continent in the way you are, not just a business, but a business with a purpose. So yeah, well done, really. And I'll be following along. So yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
All right, thank you.
Nice one. Let me just stop this. There we